Hello, everyone. It's me. Today is February 2nd. Uh, no, it's not. It's, I was distracted because it was 1:44 p.m. It's 1:45 p.m. now, and it is February 13th, 2026. I hope you are doing well. I am progressing through life, and I'm doing all right, if you're wondering. Today we are going to talk about a couple of things. As you can see, I probably am going to title this the downside of Helena Blavatsky. Now, it's not as negative as it seems, but we are going to go over a couple of things, and I'm going to talk about the cycles and how things repeat, just not exactly in the same ways, with some examples from these individuals from our past. Yeah, and then I'm going to do like a personal experience with that and how I feel things are repeating and the way that that's reflecting in my life during these days and times. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things. I found some information that I was looking for that I couldn't find before. There was a commenter, he probably unsubscribed now, that was talking with me and was quite upset about Helena Blavatsky, saying that she had groomed someone to become the avatar. And so I thought that was interesting, but I couldn't find anything on it when I went to go look because he had deleted all his comments, and then I couldn't remember the name, although I knew that it started with J. I thought it was Jariko or something, but I was totally wrong. It's Jiddu. Jiddu. So I did find it. And then I couldn't find the article that I found before, but that's okay because we can talk about basically what it had said in there. It was like from a university kind of criticism type of thing. I can't understand why I can't find it, but whatever. I looked through my history as well, couldn't find it there. So I don't know, it's a mystery. But welcome to this video. And we are going to begin by talking about how I even came to know about this lady. Years ago, I remember hearing about these people like Manly P. Hall, Rudolf Steiner, and Helena Blavatsky, and with the association of it being like Satanists, and in this area, and that the occult is evil, it automatically equates, darkness and all of that. So I kind of stayed away from it, right? But then there came a time when I had heard about the esoteric religion thing that Corey Good had said, and I decided that I would do a different area of study. So I started to collect books. And no, I wasn't reading them all, but I intuitively chose some that I thought would be beneficial to me. And this happened to be one of them. And I thought it was, because it says, the long hidden story of visiting the Masters of Wisdom in Shambhala. So, of course, I didn't understand what it was, but I thought it was a true, actual story of somebody's journey who went there, because I know of Shambhala as a place, like in the mountains of Tibet and things like this. Sometimes you would go in through and there's like a hidden, utopia kind of valley. It was actually mentioned, that was Shangri-La. I talked about that before. There was a comic book I had in my collection where Lara Croft goes to Shangri-La. Unfortunately, it was sold in a yard sale. Not by me. And I miss them still to this day. So anyway, the point of it is that yes, I bought this book and I just kind of put it on a shelf and didn't pick it up. So one day when I was going through my struggles of trying to figure out, about the Cosmic Con and what these individuals like, Corey Good and David Wilcock and them, among the many others, were doing, I don't know if maybe I had just heard of Elena Denon at that time, I think she came out in about 2020. So by 2022, things have progressed. But I had like kind of like I don't know, I guess a spiritual experience. I don't know how to explain it, because all of a sudden, intuitively, um, I kind of got a feeling like there was somebody else with me. I mean, no, it sounds weird. It wasn't a ghost or anything. I didn't see anything. It was kind of in my mind's eye. It was an inner knowing. And then I saw someone. It was a younger person, though. Like, as you see her here, she didn't look like that. She was younger. And kind of like, old style clothing, like pretty fancy clothes. And in a skirt, and like kind of like I don't know what that's called, like a petticoat kind of thing. Is that what that thing's called? And it buttons up. There's a blouse underneath or whatever. So she looked like an old style lady. I wasn't scared or anything. And her eyes are very predominantly like greeny color, very like crystals, like emeralds. And in my mind, I heard her, and I seen her point at my bookshelf and go, "Read the first 5 pages of my book. You're gonna know what it is." And then I saw this cover. And so I thought, oh, and she said, "My book." So I was like, oh, that's you. That's you. Right? I don't know if there is a picture of her in here. I still have a bookmark on page 10 because I never, oh, you stupid thing. Stop stalling. Is it working now? Okay. So yeah, it's still on page 10. I've got a bookmark there. But yeah, so what happened is that I read the 5 pages and I knew what it was. There's spiritual wisdom and knowledge in this book, but it's almost encased in a story, So they turned it into like a story, but as I was reading, I'm like, oh, so I read up to page 10. I read till 5 and I knew what it was, just like, I'd gotten this message. And I read to page 10, so I knew what it was. It was spiritual information and knowledge that they had learned translated into fictional story format. It doesn't mean that it's completely useless. You can learn lots of things. I learned lots of things from TV shows and cartoons, anime and stuff like that. Video games as well. So you can learn stuff like this. But this was a big help. This is when I first had an experience there. I still haven't read this to this day. I probably should. It's probably good. But then I ended up getting this one. But I realized this one was too advanced. But what it did was it showed me about like this the cyclical development of the universe. And that's when I started to put things together. The 7 root races, I had found initiation. That was one of the first times I had ever heard of her. And the symbol in Theosophy really caught my eye because I understood it. About the 4 directions and the cycles, reincarnation, the cosmic fire and water. It was something that really kind of spoke to me on the inside. But I just want to clarify. Hold on. I have to make sure that this stops stalling because why is it doing this to me? Hold on. It was because Telegram was open and I didn't realize. Sorry. I hope that the audio was still good even though the video was getting screwed up. So anyway, as I was saying about the development of the universe and also initiation, so the evolution of the universe, evolution of consciousness, kind of like figuring out, oh, so this is kind of what I see as soul school, this type of development through stages, almost like grades in school. So then I got into like Manly P. Hall and Rudolf Steiner, but it didn't go much from there. Like, it's not like I wanted to join the Theosophical Society or anything like that. Like, I've studied tons of religions, but I never joined them, and if I was pressured in a way that I wasn't completely comfortable with, because the Mormons try to do that, but I'm not saying anything bad about them. It's just that I felt that if I made a commitment like that, like I told them, all religions are my religion. I'm not going to choose one. I would always make this joke and say, that if I chose just one, that all the other ones would be left out and feel sad. You see what I'm saying? Because I do feel like organized religion, I don't agree with. And I feel like, especially with the pressures of that and all that negativity that we all know about, that I'd rather not deter into. Um, but you can learn different things at different stages of your worldly and inner worldly understanding, you know? I do think that, especially when I was younger, to hear the stories um of the Bible, it helps you learn, right from wrong, and different things like this. Okay, this just not something that I was brought up with, but I have seen the benefits of it, if you use it properly. But then, of course, there are those that don't, right? Anyway, I don't mean to digress too much. So I found initiation again, which reminded me of Soul School. And I was grateful. I was grateful for the help. Now that I've found these types of things, has it changed anything? No, not really. Like before, I remember someone had a go at me about this, and then they were like, "Oh, she partook in orgies." Well, you don't have to, though. You know what I mean? Like if she did that, you don't have to do that. And just because she did that, does it change the fact that there is a observable, like, it's something that I suppose I had to prove for myself, and we all have to, right? You have to get those eyes to see. But if you just look and do that and observe, you will notice these things, the cycles, just like how our seasons change, even just the planetary cycles. At one time it was like an ice ball, an ice age, and all that, and then it goes and kind of like different cycles where North America and the north of the planet was once tropical and all of that, and the south was frozen and blah 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? It goes through changes, right? Climate change, planetary changes. It all happens like that, and probably outside even further. You know, it's not just about dark and light. There's all of these different, like this how it revolves. The sun and the moon revolve and go around and around. Well, it's similar, but it does happen in like a spiral type of pattern. These things, you know, like that it might happen the same in like this similar cycle, but things aren't going to happen the same way. Like we might have disastrous events that sometimes happen on the planet, but the dinosaurs aren't going to be here anymore. But it did happen to them at one time in a similar type of situation. See what I'm saying? Mm. So there isn't very much that I have to show you and read from on these websites. But I did want to show you how I progressed, and I will link everything below for you to look over it. We're going to talk about a few things. If you do notice something, though, the eyes truly are the window to the soul, and as she gets older, I could only find pictures of her that go back so far. Probably because they didn't have cameras and whatnot or whatever. I don't know. But I could only find photographs that went back so far. And what I could see was that by the time before she died, there was a pretty different look. Okay. And I will try to bring up some pictures. Maybe I'll have to do a second part. All in one video, but I'm going to stop the video and then I'll have to restart. I'm telling myself this. You won't even notice. Okay. I don't know why I do that. But, so this was the one where I found, that fella that I was looking for. Or they had said that he had been groomed. I thought that was a strange word to use. And we're going to go over it a little bit, just briefly, because I just want to kind of connect it all to a point. So this is the fella here. This is, sorry, no, she was born in 1831. I don't think they had stuff like that back then. But anyway, this is this fella here. Jiddu Krishnamurti. And that's Dr. Annie Besant. Okay. And I'm not saying that theosophy is like the law or doctrine or the thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not telling you like this is it. No, no. There's lots of things. We see this. You know when the doctor makes the Powerpuff Girls, pours this in, pours that in, little bit of this, little bit of that. It's kind of the same thing, you know. Okay, I don't want to digress into too much, but um, I feel like okay. Let's just continue. So that's the fella. That's how I found him, and I was like, that's the guy that this person was talking about in the comments and pretty upset about. And I thought, even when I heard about it at that time, right? I thought, well, maybe desperate times call for desperate measures. And I mentioned this in my live, where the last time I was live, I believe that's when it was. I had said that back then, okay, so these people were alive during a time when, like, the paranormal, supernatural, occult type of teachings, esoteric stuff, hidden realms, ghosts, plasma phantoms. Do you remember those pictures that used to be taken where like there would be like a thing coming out of the mouth? They say this is like a plasma phantom being. Do you remember that? That was really popular. Sometimes they have that in movies and stuff. And a lot of people faked that stuff. Okay. So what I'm trying to get at is that it was a very fierce competition, just like it is today. What's going on? They didn't have the internet, but of course they were going all around and gathering groups of people, and this outdoor auditorium thing or blah, 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 or inside at a theater house or something, doing talks and lectures and, getting people because, remember how the circus was popular where they had like the bearded lady and the friggin' lizard man and the giant and, the all that, the freaky type of circus where they had people pay and, maybe they had like a fake mermaid woman and shit like that. Well, those things were around too. A circus of wonders, they'd call it, and shit like that. And so that stuff. And so this is, I believe this is around the time where snake oil salesman even comes from, you know? Because it might have something even turned out to been snake oil that they had said that would cure something or a miracle or something. I'm not exactly sure, but that's probably where it came from. Now, okay, so what should we go into first? All right, so I don't know because it looked like a young fella, but this fella here, he looks a bit older, but it turns out that he was like recruited by this group when I believe it says he was 14. Okay, that's pretty young. So I don't know because I can't find that one website where it went over what I'm about to tell you because there was an incident on a train. Helena Blavatsky was on a train, and what it turned out to be was that she paid somebody at the exact moment that the train was going by, um, like it wasn't going full speed or whatever. It was maybe at a station, at least leaving, blah, 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 blah. And someone threw a note through the door and made it look like it was from these beings from wherever. I don't know. It was like the Mathamas or something like that. I don't know. The word, um, let me see if I can find it. Just let me pause so I don't waste too much time. Hold on. Mathamas. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Ooh. Well, I can't find the word right now and I'm tired of looking. But we will come across it, I'm sure, because I'm going to make another installment. I'll be able to close my window websites there and won't lose any content, okay? So this right here, though, was on the website that I cannot find, and that is the Theosophical building that was in India. Okay? Now, where the heck were we? Oh, about the train thing. So, yeah, and so she said that it was from these beings or whatever, okay? So, one of the first things that I heard, desperate times called for desperate measures, and I think that's what it came down to. I think there was so much and feel because it was mostly a feeling because now this is more information that I have, but before it was just a feeling because even the avatar thing, I thought, oh, I'm sure that times weren't any much better than it was today, and they were probably aware of the corruption just like we are today. These things do repeat. Even though it wasn't that long ago, there are smaller cycles within cycles within cycles, you see? Almost like the inner workings of like a clock. I'm seeing like different cogs turning at different times, you see? So these things happen, and maybe it's doing it until it gets it right, in a way. I don't know. Or maybe it just continues, and then there's certain things are taken from the age, and then it's washed away clean, and then a new one begins. I don't know. I can only just theorize and guess and give you my thoughts, opinions, and feelings, and I'm not saying anything like that this is the law, this is the way it is. That's not what this is about on this channel, I'm on this journey just as much as everyone else. Sometimes I will emphasize things that really helped me, but that doesn't mean it's going to be for you and that you will learn and have the same outcome that I had by encountering this. Like, it may change your perspective or something in a different way. But I just don't want people to get their hopes up. And again, I said, you don't have to run away and join, some meditation yoga school. What was that place? It was a documentary that I posted on my Telegram. It was like the God of Gods one. I think it was called God something or other. God is already with us, or already here, or it was on my Telegram. I'm not opening that again. But even in that, I found that there was a lady in that where she was doing like a strange channeling type of voice. It reminded me of Bashar, Daryl and Anka or whatever. It reminded me a little bit of that. So sometimes when there's like organized things, even within this organization, I don't know, it's almost like group mind sometimes, and most often, a lot of times, will influence, singular mind, like a group consciousness. And maybe some things kind of do become like these psychic egregores, these ideas, okay? And maybe certain people, like Helena Blavatsky, why she decided, I don't know, I'm not her, would I do something like that? No, that's absolutely ridiculous. I'd be so embarrassed if I got caught. You know what I mean? And it's not only about that, it's about the feelings of other individuals. It's much better just to tell them the truth. But again, what was that saying? A lot of people will say that too. Oh crap, I just forgot it. I'm forgetting it even harder because I'm trying hard to remember it. It's easier to fool someone than to convince them they have been fooled, you know? And I feel like this is a little bit of what the newer generation of these individuals had to do, or chose to do, rather. I don't know. Would people have listened to them if they hadn't said, and these are things, of course, I think about myself, if they hadn't said, well, I'm a secret space program, I work for the military, blah, 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 if they had have left that out, would it have still been listened to and taken seriously? I don't know. I did it without that, and I mean, I've had progress that's made me happy-ish. It could be a lot better, I don't want to digress into that right now because it'll put me in a bad mood. But not in an ungrateful way, just a couple things that were a bit disappointing over the last little bit. But that's okay. So, with that being said, there is stuff like that, that they did. And I feel that is why. Desperate times, desperate measures. Does it make it right? No. Is it a regrettable choice? I'm sure. I don't think that these people would have made the connection that they did with me unless it was for a reason. And of course, like I said before, because I had this with Nikola Tesla also, doesn't mean I'm smart like Tesla. I had to think, what was that thing that glued us all together? What was it that bonded us? Why me and all of these people? And it's either there was mistakes made that needed to be corrected, right? Like I said, from my past life, do a little bit differently this time. or that they messed up and they'd like to have a little bit of a correction, you know, try to set things back. And I think that's probably what happens when you reach the other side. You realize, oh, dang it. You know, well, one, I probably wasn't as far as I thought I was. And two, shit, I fucked up here and here and here. And maybe that is what clearing up unfinished business means. You know, coming back just to tie up some things or to set things back on the initial track. Because I do believe that, and I feel it, that these people did have the best intentions. Again, the ego and the shadow. I found another really good video about that, how it tricks and disguises itself. And I'll try to post it below, and I'll try to bolden the title so you can see it. It was pretty good. Um, but it's a common opinion. I looked it up a little bit, that this is what happened with them, that they started off well and good. And like I said, with this book here, even though it's a little bit advanced for me, The Secret Doctrine, it does go into kind of like, it's this interpretations of something that was brought to my awareness. I wasn't sure how I was going to go into this, but I guess we can just mention it briefly. So there's like this Eurasia book or something that was Jessica, the same person that I talked about in the Golden Age. She asked again about this person, the name, I forget, but Eurasia book. And I did look it up, and it's actually talking about the ages and how it goes, earth, air, fire, water, all this type of stuff. It's just like a new creation to explain how things progressed. Yeah, on the evolution of humanity, but also on the outside of us, like, you know, with the planet and such, and the other realms as well. It was pretty interesting, and it's a nice creative take. But you don't have to pick that thing up as like how people hold the Bible. I'm not going to lie to you. At one time, I slept with the Navigator across the ice walls under my pillow. The book. You know what I mean? I did. Like it was the Bible. But you don't need to do that. You know? I think it was just like, because it felt like my way to freedom, my way out. And and like I said before, it did give me that. Just not the way I expected and thought. Right? But yeah. So, have I said yet that just because these people have done something like this, you don't follow in their footsteps? I did already, right? Like, just because she had orgies doesn't mean you have to do it too. Yeah, I did. So you don't have, like I said, okay, just want to reinforce it. You don't have to run away and join the Theosophical Society or that Universal Truth School with that lady in India that uses that weird voice like Bashara. You don't have to do that. Okay? Don't do that. That isn't going to help you progress any further. I was just watching William Donahue this morning, and so he's just said something similar as well, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, so I don't feel really bad to not ever have belonged to anything. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, it doesn't say anywhere, well, I mean, there isn't a personal resume, but I wouldn't be like, you know, I'm a Christian and I belong to this denomination and I go to this church or this or that, blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? But I always felt that way. Like, you know, I'm not going to leave any of them out. So if these people would like to pray, sure, let's pray. You know, blah, blah, blah. It's all about the divine creator, right? So let's move on a little bit, because there really isn't all that much here other than, you know, it does talk about a few things. Yeah, I thought it was this. See, the Society for Psychical Research in Cambridge. Yeah, it was. It was this, like, almost like a university. That's the one I couldn't find. Where it had her sitting in a chair, and there was this fella, and he had like a fancy type of turban. I think it had even a feather on it. You know, it was pretty fancy. It was nice. But that was where I read the train thing. So these things, like I said, were probably most likely pushed by the competition and the craziness that was going on back then, similar to what's going on right now with the cosmic con nonsenses and all these stories. And oh, I'm going to space with the space program and I'm talking to aliens and I have an extraterrestrial husband. It just repeats, just not the same way. And I think now people, will do certain things or say certain things to kind of get a little bit of more attention and an upkick in their kind of career with their content creation. Right. I know I might be just, because there's just things I don't want to get ahead of myself too. Okay, so this was from the CBC, but it was because of how I found this fella. Now, it doesn't mean that, oh my God, CBC, and then you just throw it out, right? If I had ignored it right away, I wouldn't have found this fella. So let's move over to this one. I'm going to get rid of that website, and I've frozen. Oh. Okay, so I just thought that I froze, but I didn't. I'm going to hold on. I will be right back. Okay, then. So let's continue. I went then to look up this fella, Jiddu, and I found a little bit about him here. But what happened is that I was scrolling through, and then it gave me the search assist down here. Okay, here it is. So it says he was an Indian philosopher. He lived from 1895 to 1986. Oh, he died a year after I was born. And okay, so Jiddu Krishnamurti was an Indian philosopher and spiritual teacher known for his teachings on the nature of truth and the importance of self-awareness. Nice. He emphasized that truth cannot be found through organized religion or dogma, but through personal understanding and observation of one's own mind. I agree. Huh, cool. So, we're not going to read this whole thing. But what I did see is that it says adoption. So, he was adopted by Annie Besant and the Theosophical Society, who believed he was the prophesized world teacher or the next avatar. Okay? And this is where I was like, yes, I found him. Okay, all from this fella's comments. I had quite a debate. My comments are still there, but unfortunately he deleted all of his. I didn't block him or anything. And I wanted it to be seen in case, people were reading these, they can see how I deal with people. The best of my ability and how I, stand up for myself and blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't as bad as I'm making it sound, but I was like, great, because sometimes you have to deal with things like this and criticisms like this and have debates like this, and so anyway, I went and I found this. Okay, so here's the thing. When this person first told me about this, I think it was a man. Not that it matters, but I thought to myself again, like they were probably looking for it and didn't really understand how it works, maybe even believed that someone had been put in their path in this way, such a young person. We don't know because we're not them, but I definitely don't want to jump right to purposeful, like deception, like knowing that he's not and presenting him anyway. I think they may have thought that doing certain things, sharing certain teachings, I don't know, just the individual that he already was. Who knows? Again, I can only guess and theorize. Like I'm not and like I'm not like saying that it was a good thing. It was clearly a mistake, But this picture that we're looking at, if you can't see it, it was just the same one of that fella and Annie Bassett that we were looking at previous. So it says Krishnamurti was 14 years old when he was discovered by Adyar in Adyar, by C.W. Leadbeater. By then, both Annie Besant and Leadbeater used to have long imaginary conversations with some Lord Christ. Soon after, again, things repeat. So maybe there was unseen realm interference back then as it is now, which I would assume, because imaginary conversation with some being called Lord Christ. Of course it would call itself something like that. You know what I mean? They had to get cleverer after over time. So, they changed it to aliens and gave themselves names like, maybe Thorhan, for example. I don't know. Probably. But I can only guess and theorize, Well, my feelings also just don't have a good feeling about it. With them, anyway, behind people like Galactic Federation, all this stuff. So, let's continue. So it says, soon after the discovery, the boy was officially presented to the world as being a high initiate and future avatar, the vehicle for the second coming of the Lord himself. Ooh, that's quite an extraordinary claim, and I'm sure that they had high hopes. Maybe there was different signs. I don't know. It says below that, two things become evident to all. The coming of Christ, meaning the presence of Christos in a regenerated world. But again, the Christos is something that happens inside of us, right? So we can all become Christ-like solar beings. Like I explained in previous videos many times about this. And with the Claustrum's oil and stuff like this. Again, I was thinking to myself again earlier before I restarted that the name Jesus, like I said, his name might have not been Jesus, and there could have been many people like that over time. Like this certain type of individual, like this avatar type. Like even Krishna means Christ. There was talk of that in the Bill Donahue video that I had posted yesterday. He talks a lot about that in the playlist as well. And of course, you can hear the explanation of the Christ and the Claustrum's oil in Kelly Marie Kerr's videos that I had talked about previously. So in a regenerated world, and not at all the actual coming in a body of Christ. Okay, so I did actually read this before. This is why I found this book to be advanced, just because, oops, it's upside down. Because of the way that it's written. I'll show you. Especially in the beginning when it has like big, kind of like this. Here, let me see. It almost looks like big lettering, Let's see if you can see that. See how it's written? I don't know. I just find it to be a little bit intimidatingly written. See it right there? And then it had, it's this was the army of the voice, the divine serpenty, the sparks of the seven are subject to. Oh, well, the 144, the divine serpentry, like the serpents that go up the spine, the sparks of the seven, like the chakras, are subject to, and the servants of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and the seventh of the seven. Yeah, I was right, the chakras. These sparks are called spheres, triangles, cubes, lines, and modulars, for thus stands the eternal Nidana, the Oahu, the permutation of Oh, way, oh, who. Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what that word is. But the sloka gives us a brief analysis of the hierarchies of the Danyan Chohans called devas in India, or the conscious intelligent powers in nature. Huh. Well, maybe it's not as intimidating as it was to me before. I really probably should sit down and read all of these. I have so much to do. Anyway, sorry. Very sorry. If you're still with me, I appreciate it. Right. So, it doesn't say anything about, like, grooming, but I do feel there were things that were done, like here. So I think they might have made it seem like this fellow wrote a book that he didn't write, because he says the book is not mine. They fathered it on me. So meaning like they put his name to it, but somebody else wrote it, which is pretty deceptive, or deceptive rather. You see? These things, But I remember a while ago when I was talking about the Anunnaki, this was years ago, that this saying that I'm about to tell you was really prevalent within me. And it was, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And maybe these people just had difficult choices and made them and didn't make the best ones. No one's perfect. Again, I'm not condoning this kind of thing, right? Because I don't feel that presenting, like, this doesn't say that it's truth, like it's a true story. It is, I just want to make sure, because I always self-guessing. But no, it doesn't say that it's a true story anywhere. It's fiction. Remember how I had said that Claudio had marked all of his books fiction, eh? I think that it is very important to be clear on that. But I don't know. I guess it's kind of put things in a little bit of a different perspective. Because, would I go and join the Theosophical Society? No. But it's not because of this. I didn't want to in the beginning anyway. But especially with initiation, that really helped. I think that there's things that can help people, but should we take everything as like written in stone and this is it and that's all? No. Because like I was mentioning earlier, it's like a big cauldron of many things. Like I was saying, that everything is connected, and I do very much feel that is true. But what was that one about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater? I think that if I had never looked at Helena Blavatsky and Manly P. Hall and Rudolf Steiner at all, thinking that they were just Satanists, well, I wouldn't really gotten very far at all, would I? And because I think this was meant for me to learn it this way, but also not to follow directly in someone's footsteps like that. There was a video kind of that I was going to do this the other day, and then I was unfortunately interrupted. I was wearing a really cute outfit too, but that's okay. I'm wearing a nice outfit today. You just can't see it, but I am going to show you at the end. Right. And this morning, I saw a little video about a penguin, actually. I know that sounds strange, but it was about a penguin who decided to take a journey, and it's a real penguin. It was like a documentary. And he just stopped, looked at the line of penguins, and turned around and started to head towards the mountains. And no matter how many times they tried to put him back with his little troop of penguins, I'm pretty sure it was a true story. And it led to Japanese philosophy. And it said something about, don't follow in the person's footsteps, go after what they were searching for. I'll put that little penguin video and lesson in that there, because it's really about taking your own path and focusing on that, following your dreams. And by not doing so, like, it was about living a life worth living, you know? It was pretty nice. And well, I realized that by focusing too much on the, let's just call them cosmic con people, it causes me too much distress. But now focusing on stuff like this is not as much fun as some of the other videos that I've made, but it's a lot less stressful and a lot less heavy for me, you know? So, right, with that, you know, like I was saying, it's unfortunate. And I don't know if others were inspired in different ways. Like, it may be thinking, well, if they did it, it's okay. Or something of along the lines of that. But as long as, like, as far as trying to create the avatar, I mean, it's unfortunate that they would try this, because again, after, I mean, this person, this Jiddu, did not fail. You know, I think he was almost set up for failure in that kind of way, which is cruel to do. But I'm not sure if they were actually aware that it wouldn't work. You know, maybe they thought if they could prepare the vessel, and for whatever reasons, whether it be ego, maybe it was that they really wanted to help change the world. Like, I know how this feels. I was going to talk about in a shorter video about the fact that the craft that I saw in 2017 has never returned, and that it would be very helpful for me to have it do so that I could at least get a picture, maybe a short video, and then be like, look, this is what I saw. It's come back. At least have something like that as physical proof. Yes. I'm going to talk about that later. But, you know, it gets pretty hard, you know, but would I ever make anything up like that? No. It just sucks and sometimes makes me depressed that, you know, I don't have that to kind of back things up for what I say. But maybe some people will be going through this and then decide, well, I'll just tell them that I speak for these beings or blah, blah, blah. How are they going to know? And it's true. How are they going to know? Like, that's kind of how I feel what Bashar has done. He's not really that Daryl Anka guy. That's an aspect of himself. I don't believe that he's channeling any kind of extraterrestrial at all. It's not a somebody else side of him. That's something from within. So, and it gives this deceptive thing where people think that they're talking to an extraterrestrial when they're sitting in his little gathering stadium or whatever it is, theater or whatever he has his little conference things in. But it's, I don't know, maybe that's the incentive to get people to listen to what he has to say. I don't know. You know, like, oh, because they think it's an alien, right? I'm not sure. But it was mistakes made. And like, would I stop or think that any of the things that I've learned are no good? No, because they match up with a whole bunch of other stuff. And I feel like if you can benefit from something, you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to take it as the doctrine written in stone. This is it and that's all. You know, it doesn't have to be 100% the truth. It can be part of truth. It can be perspective of truth. You know? It's difficult. But do I think these people were bad people because of it? No. There was a whole crap ton of secret societies being created back then too. Order of the Star, Order of this, the New Dawn, blah, 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 blah. They just kept, you know, it was like the most fashionable thing to do. let's start a secret society, and they had all these different minds and all these different opinions. And sometimes, like with the Powerpuff Girls, you needed certain ingredients and not too much of this and not too much of that, right? Well, I think that kind of the pot went to shit because there was too much, you know, too many conflicting agendas, you know, and not, for one main goal. I don't think that that's how it went. Maybe they hoped for that. I don't know. But maybe it was that it just appears that way. If I'm not making sense, well, it hardly makes sense to me, but I am doing my best. I'm not them, right? This isn't in me, to, kind of make these plans and plots, not necessarily super negative. I mean, I do think, like I said, it's silly to like pay somebody and oh my goodness, a message from beyond, and you've had someone throw it through the window. But it, like I've already voiced my opinion on the rest of it, just maybe that's what gains attention. Is it right to do? No. Have a lot of people done it? Yes. Maybe it's because they didn't know what else to do. I don't know. It is unfortunate, and I don't, you might think that it's irresponsible or something of me that I'm not going to read all of this. But, here was this too. So, yeah, self-importance fancies were so strong in probably a lot of them. I think that it kind of does that sometimes, and it can feel really good, like wow, like I've achieved this. It's always with the help of the divine creator, of course, but especially if you haven't had much success, like how I was shit at math, but I'm really good at kind of like this stuff, the esoteric and different things like that. We can't be excellent and great at everything. Sometimes we're going to suck at things, And I saw people complaining about William Donahue like believing in planets and stuff like this. Well, at this point, why can't it be both? Because really, like I said a long time ago, we can't fly out there. You don't have your own little spaceship to see and look down and be like, oh yeah, we are here, and this is that, and this is like that. So why not just think about it as both? It's okay to think about it if it be planets, and it's okay to be planes, or like the Terra Infinita map, and it continues, or whatever. It's okay to think about all of it. It's really important to be able to adapt to change. But it says here, would the instructions contained in it be sufficient? A delightful little book about initiation. Yeah, remember I was talking about initiation. A delightful little book, but extremely simple. Would the instructions contained in it hang on. Sorry. I'm getting all messed up. Contained in it be sufficient to bring one to the path proper, to the first initiation, like onto the spiritual path, which Miss Besant has described in her book, probably talking about initiation, or it might be even longer, but on the wiki that I found, it was probably just summarized. Yes, said Ledbeaker. And more than that, if completely carried out, these instructions would lead to adeptship itself. See, there lies in the problem. We're all so different. So what works for one person, like what's worked for me, most likely, if not, okay, isn't going to work for you that's listening to this. Not in the same way. Like how when I saw that picture of the ice wall and I was drawn in, not the ice wall, the navigator across the ice wall, the cell map. I'm like, what the hell is that? It looks like a giant cell. And then I fold it like that. You're not going to have the exact same experience, but you may gain something from looking this over, reading the story, researching about it a little bit. You see what I'm saying? You might gain something, not the exact same thing as me. And that's the problem. It's almost like everyone's like, well, I've got this recipes for success for you because it worked for me. I found that. I've tried other people's ways and I'm like, well, why doesn't it work for me? Because it's not my way. That's not the path I'm meant to take. And we're all meant to take these different paths. And it wouldn't matter if they had sat with this Jiddu fella to make him the avatar all day, every day, making him recite this, do yoga, meditation, blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't matter. Because that's in the divine plan that makes that happen. The divine creator chooses that. They can't choose that. But to be honest, I bet you if the divine could speak right now, it would go, well, it was really nice of them to try. You know? Oh, well, that's really sweet. No, it is. It's endearing. Like, they probably thought they really needed it. So they'd be like, well, maybe it's this fella. Maybe he's come into our lives for this reason. We don't know. Like I said, I'm just theorizing and guessing about how the situation even came to be. Why they would think something like this. I don't think it was to be purposefully deceptive. Maybe they thought they could do it. And wouldn't how wonderful that would be. They probably just wanted the golden age just as much as we do now. That's why she talked about this kind of stuff. Shambhala was a beautiful place. Gorgeous buildings, like a friggin' fairy tale, fantasy, Final Fantasy game. I couldn't get it out. Beautiful. Like a utopia, paradise, heaven. Of course they want that. But like I was saying, see, the ego gets involved. Just like today with David Wilcock, Elena Denon, Corey Good. It's the same. It repeats. It says here, Leadbeater spoke as if he were a great sage. Self-importance fancies were so strong in Adyar that some years later in 1925, Annie Besant would announce a most remarkable fact. She herself, as well as C.W. Leadbeater, Jiddu Krishnamurti, George Arndale, and others had all achieved adepthood and were now masters and initiates of the fifth circle. So, like it said, Helena Blavatsky, in initiation, it said that she reached fourth initiation. So maybe they're saying that they reached the fifth, which is, I believe it's the Avatar, isn't it? Hold on. The fifth, the resurrection. On the first rung of beings, masters of ancient wisdom. So, I mean, I suppose there's the students of ancient wisdom in a way. I don't know. It might be a little bit. Oh, wait a second. Siddhis at this level include the ability to teleport and biolocate moderate distances and levitate within a localized area. Yeah, but the thing is, I didn't see Helena Blavatsky in the freaking living room, like an apparition or anything, So, I don't know. Maybe they had just hoped. Like I said on my photo shoot thing about graduating to 3. I mean, that's my best freaking guess. It was kind of like me celebrating self, not in a bad way, but just even the fact, like, because I used to think I was dumb, right? Like, you just see me how I can a little comprehend that book a little bit more, when before it was intimidating to me and I just didn't bother to pick it up again. But surprise, surprise. And it says, for some reason, though, soon after the announcement, it became obvious that Besant had lost both her mind and her balance. Yeah, that can happen. There was a video by the actor that played Saruman, and he also said that you can lose your mind and your soul. Well, you can. I mean, especially if you sell it to Hollywood and places like that. But you can lose your mind. Like, it is difficult, like I said, to deal with some even the things that I've had to sit here with. Well, why won't they help me? Why won't they come back in the craft again? So I can be like, oh, holy crap, look, I've got video. I wasn't lying. I wasn't making anything up. Look, there it is. Like, is it a lot to be asking them to maybe land and walk to the door and knock and come in through the balcony when I'm on a live stream? Sure. Well, yeah. But, getting them on the phone or however we're going to get them on camera, that'd be certainly helpful. And it is. It's difficult to think about sometimes, you know? But that's just the way it is. I have faith that hopefully, when it's time, it'll happen. Hopefully it's soon. That's what I was meaning. But if it'll happen when it's going to. And I have no control over that. Like, I realized that seeing it one time did so much for me, seeing that craft, just being able to realize, hey, that's not lights, that's a power source. And, the feeling of, somebody being upon it that was clearly had an advanced consciousness that was able to, it felt like I was being scanned or something. At first I thought it was the ship. It's a very strong, unmistakable feeling. Like you're being watched, but like times 100. Yeah, it wasn't uncomfortable, but it was definitely predominantly felt, like, whoa. Like you knew that they were watching you back as you're watching them. Yeah, weird. But it can be pretty frustrating. It says with level 3 about clairvoyance, about like seeing maybe future events in your dreams, even about your own life. Clairvoyance, what was that? Sorry. Again, I'm not an expert even at this. It's me studying this as a student myself. So I don't know about fully developed clairvoyance. I struggle with self-doubt, and I think that may be the problem. Clairvoyance and clairaudience. That's what third initiation is, the transfiguration. Almost like things all coming together. And the fourth is called the crucifixion. So the perfected one. But that doesn't mean you're perfected. It's like this thing that happens. Because nobody is perfect, right? It's like this process has been completed, in a sense. It says, one who has killed all enemies and vices. So that's within and outside. But you don't actually kill them. You realize that there is no enemy and all is you, even maybe in a different lifetime. You see? So like I was saying, like with the Terra Infinita map that Claudia made, it's not going to be the same as it was for you as it is for me. If this doesn't work for you, you may learn it another way. Like Jessica with the Eurasia book. It's kind of a newer thing, but people, I think, are getting all excited about it because there might be mention of Christ or Jesus. And again, there were lots of Christed beings. Like it was just saying up here about that, how they wanted, to have this fella be the avatar, But with Annie Bassett, they probably really hoped, and then saying something like that or making claims that, you can teleport. Well, they're like, well, how come you can't teleport then, Miss Bassett or Dr. Bassett or whatever? And then, how many times is she going to have to make up excuses? Of course, this could lead you to lose your mind. And that's the problem with it, right? It's almost like when they say when you tell one lie, you have to tell another one, and another one, and another one, So it's unfortunate, but these are the dangers of it. And they're very real. And they can happen to the best of us, But yeah. So are there some downsides? Absolutely. But do you need to run away with the Theosophical Society? No, I never said that. What I have learned from it has been helpful, And I hope that it helps other people too. But again, we don't need to make the same mistakes. And some people may not see it that way. Again, like I said, do these people get their information out there? Yeah. Is it confusing a lot of people? Yes. But I don't know what to say about that anymore. Maybe it's just about choices. There was some talk about Helena Blavatsky misunderstanding the whole left-hand path, and maybe this is why the left-hand path has ended up this way as it has today, with like the Masons and all of this nonsense that we have with their one-eyed bullshit, you know? And that's why, like I said, it's turned into something much different than the initial idea of it, you know? Mm, all of it. And like I mentioned, so many minds, so many voices in these secret societies, and they didn't even know. You know, there could be some real psycho murderers in there. They wouldn't know until, whoops, it was too late. You see what I'm saying? Like, I've never liked Aleister Crowley, and that's why I never talk about him, and I don't keep all of these people in the same basket. But he was very different. Okay, he wasn't the same. They may have had the same influences or teachers and things like this, and into the same subjects or whatever, but they were very different. You know. Again, I guess the way that things repeat is that we are all learning, I suppose, and maybe these are learning lessons, you know, that we make choices and learn from them or grow from them and blah, blah, blah. And that's just the way it is. And you have to make your own and they make theirs. And that's the best you can do, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm talking to myself here at this point, really. That's normally what every video is pretty much like. It is a vlog. And I never meant to tell anybody, like, you know, oh, this is the way it is. Like I said, I'm able to see this information now being like translated different ways. Some of it I see is very silly. You know, like Manly P. Hall quoted once said, the ways in which they hide the mysteries is highly unusual. And I agree, highly unusual. But it's not my path, you know? So how these things are reflecting now, like I said, when I talked about my past life, what I remember from that and how things reflect the lessons that need to be relearned. I said one day, you know, we all just started fighting, attacking each other, you know, killing each other. And I feel like today, and the way that it feels is that it happened and I had no idea why this was happening. But I intervened to try to fix the problem. But by going in to fix the problem, I entered into a war that was really, I should have stayed out of. That would have been for the best. Unfortunately, I thought I was doing the right thing, right? I've talked about this. So it reflects here. And I don't know. Because, like for me, I feel like it's important for others to learn these lessons too, even if it is by making the mistake of thinking that, you know, a map that someone made is the actual map to escape from this horrid place. We all make mistakes. It's fine. These things happen as long as you correct them. I said this before. You know how they say you can't fix stupid? No, you cannot fix someone else's stupid or ignorance or something that they do not know, but they can fix it themselves. And so that's what I did. You know, not that I was ever stupid. I was just without knowledge, ignorant in certain areas. And I think that's how, you know, sometimes we get taken advantage of, you know, with different things like that. So, I'm tired now and I am hungry. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So with the past life and the reflection and cycles repeating not the same way, like now here we all are, like I said, we're all using the superpowers that we have in this age. It may not be fireballs from the hand anymore, or aether in that sense, but we are using our physical body's aether and our life force. I just, like I said, for me personally, I could never sit there and let people believe, regardless of whether they were without knowledge or not. I would never, what's this? Lead someone to think that I was like a super soldier or this or that, and that I was in a secret space room, that I worked with the military, or that I was in the military, or da 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 da. I would never make up something in this in at all. To pretend to be something I'm not literally is complete opposite of my path and what I want for myself. You know? But if they felt the need to do this, like if Corey Good, and it made himself feel better, he's going to have to deal with the fallout consequences, which is already happening, right? And it's unfortunate. But that's what happens, and there are some people that aren't going to share the exact same thoughts and feelings as me or yourself, and that's okay. It's okay. If even after this, you still think they're devil worshippers, I mean, they weren't. Were they people like you and I and probably fell a little bit to ego? I mean, that's what happens. I mean, that's the same thing with the lady with the weird voice from the documentary that I said. She sounded like Bashar. There was documentaries I posted recently on my Telegram, and they were translated into English. They're very good. There was two of them. It's not the first one, the God of Gods one. It's the second one. And it's the one with the man and telling the story to his little boy. And it's cute. It's a very good movie. But like I said, did this make me feel like I wanted to run away to India and join the Universal Truth School that they had there or whatever it was called? No. Okay? So there. I am tired. But it turns out, yeah. I mean, I didn't doubt it. Even when the guy told me, I was like, well, they probably did. But, the reasons for it probably weren't sinister or like to make money or blah, blah, blah. Like I said, if this all started, it's probably because to get this idea out into the world to kind of help evolve the consciousness here. And it does. It helps open your mind to be able to see things different ways. And like Universal Disclosure by Martin Kenny, I think that's his name. Martin Kenny. I think so. That is just another translation of the procession of the ages. Just like how we went over the yugas in that video that I did about the golden age and the yugas and all of that. It's just another translation of that. Just like the Eurasia book. Ages, yugas, cycle of evolution of humanity and what we will become. That's like the 7 root races. And that's something that comes from theosophy. So everything is just a different interpretation. Like we have many different languages, right? People will interpret it differently, just like I am right now. There are some people who will get it and some people not. But yeah. So that is pretty much the research that I have to talk about today. And the wisdom from with myself that I have to share with you. And my opinions, thoughts, and feelings on that. I think I had said in the live stream too that it's not like they came through with the intention to try to make me the avatar or something like that. If anybody's had that idea. No. Nothing like that. I mean, I knew what Avatar was because of Avatar The Last Airbender. And then, of course, by learning through initiation. And I mean, they deleted it off the internet and Wikipedia, unfortunately, but I still have it. So I thought it was most useful, And it is. It really helped me understand things a lot better, especially about people who had never, initiation level 0. They just had never even considered a step on the path of the spiritual life. Not even at all. So it says, with that, I'm going to leave you in a moment. I'm going to show you my outfit. But where is it? Initiation 0. It says the vast majority of humanity lies on the probationary path, below the first initiation. Probation. It's almost like what that time is when you are applying for a job or you're going for a job and then you have to stay on probation for a few months. Maybe it's like that in your lifetime. Like, it's like this starting place in your lifetimes, and then eventually you make certain choices, or like that penguin, you stop and you look at the line of other penguins and you turn the other way. And that penguin died, though. Like, I know it seems like a sad story, like, oh, he didn't make it. But at least he lived his dream. Maybe every day he thought, turned and looked, I wonder what's that way. You know? And if he died in that line going the same way every day, he'd never know. But he followed his dream. You're going to die anyway. That's the one thing that cannot be changed. So, yeah. I also have a new, I found a new video from Bill, and it's called The Purpose, and it was really good, and I wish I had found it before I posted my video with that series of his in there, because I would have added it. That's too bad, eh? Oh well, I did post it on my Telegram, and it's really good. It's called The Purpose. I also posted it below the video, and he explains even what he does in it. It's really good, the purpose of it all. Yeah, it's pretty good. Shitty that I didn't find it before. But that's okay. I guess the moral of the story here is we all have to take our own path. You know? Yeah, so I'm super tired and I'm just kind of like rambling on now, so I'm gonna let you go. But I thank you so much for being here with me today. And yeah, I'm just like you. I'm just every other person. I'm not a journalist or anything like that. Somebody thought I was a journalist. No, I'm not a journalist. I'm doing research and I share, what I'm researching. I mean, now this kind of clears it up in my mind. I don't feel the need to look any further, really, because I see just how things reflect from back then till now. And we're still having new stuff pop up. New little societies. It may not be called a secret society anymore because it doesn't need to be a secret. It's all out in the open, right? Like, oh, well, Happy Science is a Japanese cult. Like, I loved the movies from Happy Science. You could learn lots of stuff. They were so cool. They had lots of things. It showed about soul school. It showed about the type of jobs that they have out there once you graduate from this place. It was awesome. The place where the spiritual doctors are and scientists and all kinds of shit. And they explained in those movies, and they were good. But I mean, it is. It's like they worship this fella, and why? Just like in that Heaven's Gate thing, they worship that one fella. You know, I think it might just be people's need to have something physical to touch and see and experience, because the divine is non-physical, right? So this is why, they're saying I'm channeling for this and that, and it's appealing. It's comforting. It makes you feel closer, I guess. So that's my story there, and I'm sticking to it. I hope that you enjoyed this little let's see, I don't know, episode of research today. I don't know. But I'm going to go now. And, if anybody wonders about things like this, you can read these links below. I'm just looking over it to see if I'm missing anything. But I didn't, because I did that before, and there's nothing really that stands out that I'd like to talk about. I mean, it just seems like power struggles within their own society. People, it's just like today with the alliance of bullshit. Oh, I know this, and I've been here, and I'm the emissary of this and that, and blah, blah, blah. It's pretty much the same. It just repeats. Yeah. I guess they had, like, I said, like a formula on how to be pure, or, oh, what the matimas about personal hygiene at the physical plane. Oh, well, they were probably encouraging people's personal hygiene because it wasn't so good back then. Oh, the matimas told us to tell you to wash your ass more. you know, fair enough. Maybe people stunk and they thought that was okay. Mm, it says, the lot. Oh, like it's almost like the beast nature, So like a dirty, offensive beast. Goodness gracious. But yeah, it's probably because people weren't that clean back then. You know, some of them, and that was like everybody, not just people in India. That was everybody. You know. So thank God for showers and baths and stuff and indoor plumbing. But yeah, it repeats. I hope that I can do things differently this time. And I think by focusing on finishing my book and focusing on my own path, it will be just that. I think that there's, like, I need to not worry about others as much and let them make their own mistakes. And I know that may sound like I don't care, but I do. I think that when you make a mistake, like when your parents tell you don't touch that, it's hot, then you touch it, it's hot, you burn yourself. Well, you learn not to do that again, right? Kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because the only master you can be is the master of yourself. And with that, I think I'm going to go. The neighbors have just been wild lately, just fighting and screaming and police and all of that for days and days. So I don't expect it to get any better now that it is Friday. But I do hope very much, I'm sorry, I'm still going over the website. I do hope very much you enjoy your weekend. I will try and come and have a live stream with you in a little bit. Not today, but of course, when it comes up, I will let you know. But until then, I will be doing my thing and taking care of myself and living life. And I hope that you will too. Okay? Okay, everybody. Sorry about that. Take care. Have a great day. And I will talk with you again soon. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so, though. Yeah. So I have been working on my book, by the way. And I think I should just focus on that. That's definitely, I feel that as well. Um, yeah, and I'm not going to digress anymore. Okay. I will talk about that in my personal update whenever I make that. Okay? All right. So, yes. If you do not learn from the mistakes of history, you are doomed to repeat them. Probably has some significance here, right? Yeah. All right. So don't do stuff like that. And plus, we don't have to hide anymore. I mean, back in the day when she was writing, I don't even think women were allowed to write books. They'd like have like secret names or something, like have a fake name, or like, oh, my husband wrote this, but really it was her. To even be taken seriously. So there's that stuff too. All right then. Sorry about that. I keep digressing, but now we are done. And I wish you a wonderful, fabulous day. Take care. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi again. I forgot to show you my outfit. Before I do, I was looking at the page before I closed it, like where there was a Wikipedia link. It said that the Japu fella, I might put a picture of it here, but he had seizures. And they were like mystical fits. He probably had something like epilepsy or something, and they took it as something like mystical. I don't know. But there were probably different factors which led them to think that, hey, maybe we can, you know, help this thing to happen and have the avatar manifest in that kind of a way. But I don't think I would call it grooming, you know? So, anyway, I just wanted to mention that. But here is my outfit. So, this here is a top, and then it's a skirt, and then I have leggings, these beautiful maroon colored leggings, and my black sweater. It actually has long sleeves, if I want it to have the long sleeves, like this, but I like it if I put it like this. But yeah, so it kind of has these rufflies, and my shirt is rufflies, and then I have this cute little belt right here, fashiony belt, boop, 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 boop. And yeah, so it it's just a cute little thing I put together today. Thought I would show you. So there it is. Ta-da! Dun da da! Dun da dun dun da dun dun dun. See you next time. Bye! Good morning, everyone. It's me. It is February 17th, 2026 at 9:36 a.m. This morning, I just want to quickly reflect on this video, and I want to emphasize some of the things that show up here and kind of talk a little bit more about things that repeat. As you can see, I decided that I would put the quote, "If you do not learn from history, there are those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it." And it talks about making the same mistakes. And like I said, I didn't even fully know about, like I said, some of the downside of Helena Blavatsky and the unfortunate things that she had done to try to gain notoriety in the past. Like I was saying, during her time, it's a lot like this time. Things repeat, just never the same. So it has a lot of similarities. These days that we're in now, from these days that they lived then. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about Annie Bassett, Dr. Annie Bassett. When it said about the balance, she lost her balance and she lost her mind. What it talks about is the balance between heart and mind, the union of that. So they stopped listening to their heart and solely focused on their smarts, yes? Their intelligence. This is one of the things that I noticed. They all said that they were like level 5 initiates. And this would indicate that they could biolocate to any location, and they couldn't, as I had stated in this video. There were things like this. I feel like that this has happened, of course, again now in our day and age. That I mean, it's clearly evident that there was a problem, you know, with people like Elena Denon, Corey Good, David Wilcock, whatnot, the rest of them. There's so many to name, and I don't have the energy. But you know, these people, their actions speak for them. You see, Elena Denon with the whole Megan Rose thing. You know, I think that they think that these things are okay, but myself and these people definitely didn't learn from the past the same at all. But it it does remind me so much of the past when I talked about how one day we all just started fighting and ending each other, yeah? In the age I remember, the time I remember, it feels so long ago from now. Things didn't have value like they do now, you know? Gold, jewels, and stuff like that. These were just stuff that the earth made. But it had no value the way it does today. And I think and feel, I mean, I'm sure that I've talked about this once before, but even further back, like it just keeps repeating these cycles, even smaller and larger cycles. So when the East fell, as the West is falling right now, the East fell a long time ago. And they fell because of the same reasons. You know, it became about power. It became about wealth and money. It became about your name. It became about being remembered in history. You know, there was so much sexual degeneracy then too. I mean, they even have this evidence. There's even sexual carvings on some of the walls in ancient India. It's not that sex, it's supposed to be sacred, but it became something else, you see? It's almost like that story in the Bible from Sodom and Gomorrah, you know? How that city just became like a degenerate, gross place, and then it was destroyed. This is just a small example of it. That's a symbolic and allegorical story of something much larger. And so I'm not trying to shame and blame anybody, right? These cycles, just how it goes. This is just what civilizations go through. Like the sun and the moon, they rise and fall. So do we. But I think that recognizing them can prevent it happening from the same way. You know, maybe things should be this way destroyed. You know, that we shouldn't live this way. But it doesn't have to be like world destruction destroyed. You know, like when when the comet hit the earth and destroyed all the dinosaurs. That's probably not the best example, but so, I mean, but it didn't always start that way, you know? But it turns that way eventually. It spirals down and then it'll spiral back up. It's just the way it goes, unfortunately. I mean, that's just the way of life. That's just nature. So, I don't know. I hope that this video sheds some light on, you know, the happenings of today. That people just didn't learn the same. And I guess it's just part of how things go. You know, I was even thinking this morning when I woke up about how the culling and how that was presented to me is really a test, you know, in many different ways. You know, I remember when I first heard about it, thinking like, well, number one, I definitely don't want to be among the ones that are culled, but that didn't mean that I wanted that to happen to anybody else or that I thought that I was better than them in any way. I wanted to strive so that it wouldn't happen to me and it wouldn't happen to others, you see? And I also thought and felt very strongly that there had to be another way. You see, I had to find another way. And I think that's part of the test of it. You know, even if it comes down to just working on yourself and that's all you can do, in the end, I guess I hoped that the result of that would be what we have, I guess, here today. Me sharing my heart, mind, and soul. Like I said, I don't have the same superpowers that I did before, and I know some people think that's funny, but it also reflects the same. You know, I didn't use them properly the last time. I feel that. And I I think by engaging in that battle, it led to my own destruction. And the same reflects in this day and age, that engaging in their nonsense will only lead me to my own destruction. You know, things just have to kind of play their course. And I think it's a learning lesson for all of us. And the saddest thing is that just recently I read on Elena Danon's Telegram, I posted about it. It's been about a week now, but I think so. I've been going through it a little bit since the 11th, but I'll explain that at a further time. And she said, like, basically that they're content creators and that the gullible, it's their fault for not knowing what they're talking about. So basically, that if you are ignorant in the subjects that they are discussing and you fall for the fact that you think that they're flying to Neptune and meeting with aliens and all of this stuff, that's your fault. Okay? She did state that. And I will try, if it's still there, I didn't take a picture of it yet, but I will try to post a picture of it at the end of this video so you can see what she said. That's exactly it, and this is how they feel. So they're just content creators, and if you feel that, you know, you fell for it, well, it's your fault. And this is what I've said before, that's exactly how the cabal feels. That if you were dumb enough to fall for their shit, then it's your fault. Plainly and simply speaking. You know? But, yeah. I definitely don't want to be the ones that doesn't learn from history. So, you know, all I'm saying is that I just don't want to. I'm going to try my best because it's deeply affected me in my life. But just, I really got to step away from that because it's toxic. And it's definitely not my path. It's not what I choose. It's something that I do not understand because it's not in me. And it's kind of a relief, but it's a little bit frustrating, you know? It's frustrating because I wish that these people didn't do it, but they did. And that's their choice. It's not mine. And so I just have to make peace with all that, you know? But, yeah. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some insight into, and some clarity about things. Especially when it comes to this whole, spirit for sale. I don't know when that happened. You know, I think it's always been done in a certain way, but it definitely wasn't something that I ever thought was the right thing to do. Spirit isn't for sale. It's for everyone. And it shouldn't cost you a thing. Except your time and your effort. You know. Into yourself and your relationship with the divine creator. I don't know. But yeah. I just don't think that I talked about that enough. So I just wanted to put it in there a little bit more. You know, have people reflect on that, I guess. That, you know, it really is clear to me about these things repeating. I don't know, I guess, like I said, we just take different paths. So, with that, I'm going to mix this video together. And, I don't know. I guess I've talked about that before where, like, I said it in this video, I'm sure, that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I think that these people were aware, or they knew it would happen, that some people would misunderstand them. But at the same time, I think they were aware that they could make big money off of it. And, yeah. We're just in this, like the Kali Yuga is like that. But I think the test is to not do things like that, you know, even in the hardest of times, when you do need to make money, you know. I just don't believe that's the right thing to do at all. So yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a good day, and I will talk to you all again soon. Take care. Bye.